Testing the mic volume here. And I got 2 inputs. Testing the other input. This is noisy though. Yeah, this mic will have to do. Okay, that's fine. Okay, my audio should be working. Hopefully we got some viewers here. And we'll get this stream started. Let's see here. And we'll get this stream. Only one person watching, so that's probably me. That's okay. Hopefully we'll get a couple of viewers as we go along. And let's see here. So, I guess I'll wait till some viewers come in before I start explaining my planning process and everything that I created. So I'm just gonna start getting into work. And yeah, when I see you guys in the chat. Oh, hey, someone's here. Let's see what you got cooking, my dude. Appreciate you joining the stream. Now that we got some viewers here, I can start showing off some of the stuff that I've been working on. So this app here, this is the tool tab app that I've been working on. This is my original idea. And also just kind of a project so I can learn how to vibe code essentially. I do have some background in programming, but not a lot. I'm no way an expert programmer. But when I look at a piece of code, like I know what I'm looking at, I can kind of decipher it. So this app here, it started out as a simple copy or clipboard manager because I just wanted something that could do that and something I can vibe code myself. So that was the initial thing. But the whole point of this app, because it's called Tool Tab, is that each of these tabs are essentially a tool that you can add in. And my idea was that people can add in their own tools and ads and apps, I guess, to do things kind of like a plugin system. And then I started adding a whole bunch in, like DaVinci, which is like an automatic video editor, only for some functions. I was kind of building it out. This one here just keeps an eye on this space. And then the important one, the codex bot. And this involves this codex bot and this notification center. And what this does is, you can see here, this codex Claude in WERP. So this session here is detecting essentially this session right here in WERP, right? And I just opened this up just so I can kind of show you guys how this works. So it'll give you the context, the usage, the model you're using, the session ID, so that way you can launch it if you close it. And then the important feature of this, which will essentially come, you'll notice this here is the same. So when I click this rearrange, it changes in this as well. So this notification center is basically the in-app tab as well at the same time. So that was just the idea. So I can test it without having to open this, expand and collapse. But anyway, so check this out. So I can send a prompt here. I can say, hello again, Claude. And I can send that prompt. And then you'll notice in the background here, this had sent it and it's going. So the idea was to be able to have control over your sessions remotely. So if you have a whole bunch of windows open, you don't have to go and find your window, find that session exactly, and then send a prompt. So for example, if the session needs user input, like it's trying to ask you a question, that will also show up in the codex bot and you can answer the question directly from there. So let me just see here. Can you mimic Claude asking me a question, for example, when you're trying to write a file, but you need permission to do so and it needs user input? Because I'm testing out an app that'll detect when you need user input. So just ask me a random question, please. So let's see if I can just get it to mimic that. Sometimes it doesn't want to, and then I actually have to force it to. Okay, so there you go. So that's the question there. And then you see my beeper popped up, waiting for your input. So if I hit respond here, it shows me the exact same questions you can see here and over here. And then the only thing I didn't figure out yet is if you want to type something or chat about this, I could have put this directly here and have it sent it. But before I got around to that feature, and I can just click focus and answer, and it'll just focus the app, and then I can do it myself. Or if I want to do Markdown MD, I just hit here, select and send. And in the background, you can see it sent that answer. So even if that window was somewhere else, it would be able to be interacted with, basically. So that was basically the whole point of this. And as I was making this,
is around the time when I kind of got discouraged when I saw other apps of what people are building and what they're selling. And I realized that the scope of my app is nowhere near that, even though I kind of knew this was just an app that I'm making to test my skills and to get used to the whole process. But I then realized that when I'm actually building, or what I want to build is essentially an ADE or an IDE, which I know everybody's building, but everyone's building the same thing. I want to build something different. So there's a lot of features that I started thinking about that other apps don't have. And unfortunately, some recent releases from some companies started doing the exact thing that I wanted to implement. And that just means that I'm not going to be able to do it better than them, but I have to do it at least in a way that makes a splash, I guess you could say. So you'll notice that I'm not using Whisper Flow. I'm using this. I'm not sure if any of you guys know what this app is, but you can see like it says the text as I'm writing it, but it's not too accurate. I'm still working on it. This is the dictation app that I'm working on. So I want to embed this dictation app into my Codex bot or the new app that I'm building. So I can use this dictation and have my notification center send it to a session that I want it to directly. So I can just talk while I'm in any window and I can say, hey, this and this and this. Okay, send this prompt to the session that's working on this project. And then boom, it'll send it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go and find that app, right? So this dictation app that you'll notice that I'm using, that is my own app. So let me just get rid of this here. So this is the Uzi Flow here. And let me just see here. Just description appearance. So this is basically the widget here. There is an expanded version like that. Please stop. And then, so yeah, so this is the expanded version. You can drag it anywhere. And then you can turn it into the smaller version, which is kind of like Whisper Flow, right? So, we're just kind of working on this. And I got a lot of work done on this, like even like keeping all the history and everything. Shortcuts, the different text and appearance. I'm really proud of this theming system that I made. There's even a custom, oh shit. Okay, well, I'll have to fix that somehow. But anyway, yeah, I'll have to fix that regardless. But anyway, yeah, I like how I did the theming system and whatnot. And then for the dictation, I like how I made, how it says what it's dictating as I'm typing. I really like that feature. But yeah, even Woozy Flow, which is my dictation app, is just a way for me to see how well I can vibe code apps, and it turned out pretty good. But now I want to build something that'll put all this together. I want an actual AD or an IDE with a notification center, and then I want to embed my dictation app into it. So what I decided to do, and I'm hoping there's still some viewers here, that I hope I'm not explaining this to myself, but the new app that I'm now going to be building is essentially what I'm focused on. And I really wanted a way that I could build the app and make sure I, do everything that I need to while building it, and I don't miss anything, because most of it is going to be vibe coded. So I want to make sure it gets done properly, the features that I want, at least up until like the prototype, the initial prototype, because after that, then I can just iterate with an AI agent and get the app working exactly how I want. But there's a lot to even get to that point. Even the initial prototype is not going to be enough, because I'm going to have to put in like a plugin system. That's one of the features that I want for this app. And the plugin system is basically going to be, I don't know if you guys have seen what DeepSeek recently did, how they're using Cordis in their harness, and allows the user to basically make any plugin they want for the IDE. So for example, there's sidebar that they have. So for example, if you look at like a ChatGPT or Claude, for example, and how their sidebar works. This sidebar essentially will be a plugin itself. So imagine this sidebar being a plugin for the app. So the user can just take out the sidebar if they want. Or if they want, they can duplicate that sidebar plugin and then modify it, make it do what they want it to do, right? And that's kind of the idea that I had. I wanted a plugin system that people can essentially make whatever they want in the app. They can essentially give it like .NET code or C# or whether it's TypeScript or Cordis, whatever it is. They can build a plugin put it into the app, and it can do whatever you want. That's the idea that I had, you know, and obviously that's going to come past the initial prototype because that's going to be a whole plugin system that I'm going to have to make, even like a repository for plugins that are already made. And some of the core features will be plugins. So for example, I'll show you guys one mock-up that I had for the app. And the mock-up kind of shows what I want the app to generally look like. So let me just pull it up here. So this is just one of the mock-ups here. I'll show you. I like dark mode only. So imagine this app here. So this kind of looks like a codex app, I guess you could say. In this tab mode, just 1 second. This tab mode, each of these windows will be like Warp, and that'll kind of be like a plugin system. So each one of these windows can be a plugin, whether it's a terminal window, a file explorer, it could be a browser, it could be anything, but they'll be plugins. So that way people can add their own stuff. And this tools here will be the same thing in my tool tabs. The Hypersleep is the hard drives, or sorry, Space Watchers are hard drives and other things. So people can add their own tools and whatnot into the AD. That's basically the idea. Guys, just give me 1 second. I just got to Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully not everybody just left. But I do apologize. I have to take care of something real quick. Okay. Yeah, if you're in, I don't know why it's so hard to see when someone is watching my channel, but yeah, if you guys are here, hit me up in the chat. If you guys want me to continue explaining about the app and what it does and whatnot, I can continue explaining all that. But I think there's only one viewer, I think, but it takes a while to update, so I'm not sure even if there is one viewer or more than that. Yeah, if you guys are here, just throw something in the chat there and I'll continue, explaining everything. Let's see here.
You option to send you on use the iCloud.
Yeah, that's fine. Wait, hold on. You should be able to send.
No, very good.
Yeah, that's fine. Just send.
हो गया
I'm doing it. You know, that's kind of odd. All right. Sorry guys. I have to do a few things here, but I believe we are ready to go. I really wish they made it easier so I can see how many people are watching. Okay, I think 2 people are watching. So okay, so we got a couple people here. So I can either explain through the app that that I came from, that I made before, or the app that I'm making now. But I do have to start doing the process of actually making the app, so you guys will be able to see this planning process, so to say, that I kind of created. And you know, put something in the chat, guys, if you guys are there, just so I know that I'm not talking to myself here. And yeah, I'll go through basically what I'm trying to build here. Let's see here. Oh shoot, damn it. I was gonna mess it up. Okay, we're back there, and okay. All right, so I'll just go ahead and start explaining all this here. So essentially this here is a mock-up of the app that I want to build. It is an ID or an AD, whatever you want to call it. It's an AI development environment. And I know everybody's building one, but I think I got a couple ideas with this that might kind of push it past other people's ideas. And one idea is having like an agent mode and a tab mode. So the agent mode, you'll notice here, it looks very similar to Codex or Cloud Code, the desktop apps. You'll have your projects here and the the sessions underneath it, same like those apps. One difference here is you'll have a tool section here, which is basically part of the plugin system that I have planned. So you can add your own tools or plugins or little small apps that you can program yourself. I'm still trying to figure out what language I'm going to do this in. It's probably going to use a Cortis system that DeepSeek is now using. But yeah, that'll basically be able to turn any part of this into a plugin. So even the sidebar is a plugin. The user can turn that off or duplicate it and modify it if they want to. Then the other part of this is a tab mode. Tab mode is basically like the Apple Work, where it gives you a window that you can open up as many terminals as you want. So here I have 10, 5 on the top, 5 on the bottom. But in my app, there not only be terminal windows or it's agent windows, it can also be browsers, file explorers, or other plugins that users want to install. So they can have anything in the window that they want, you know. That's basically the idea. So not just terminals, but browsers, file explorers, and custom apps. And then the IDE will also have a essentially like a notification center. And why isn't that showing here? Oh, it's hidden behind. It should be always on top, so I gotta fix that. But anyway, so yeah, this beeper, as I called it, is a notification center. And then Codex bot is basically the same thing that you see here. Like you'll notice if I click something here, it changes on the left side, this window here. Right here, it changes here as well. So So yeah, this basically will be implemented into my app. So it'll have access to all the sessions in my app and all the Windows sessions that you have open, like in terminal windows. Claude Code, I can detect the desktop app and its sessions, but only the one that's active. Codex desktop app, you can detect anything in the session in that app, but my app will be able to detect its own sessions and any other session you have open on your PC, as long as it's not in the desktop app. And you'll be able to get notifications for it. So for example, there's none here for it, but there will be notifications, like if it finishes its task, it'll pop up a notification. If it needs input, if it's asking you a question, that'll pop up in the notification center, and you can just kind of click the answer and let it go. So you don't have to go and find the session you're working on. Then my dictation app, which is right here, this will also be implemented into my app. Simply the same way the Codex bot works. I just want the dictation app to be able to, so the user can, for example, start dictating. Then when he finishes, he can select whichever session in this list and send that prompt off, or the text off to that session and send it as a prompt. That's basically the idea that I have. So it's essentially cutting out the time that you take to find the session that you're working on and then begin working on it. Whereas this one, everything will be at your fingertips. That's basically the whole point of it. And the other point of it is to have a plugin system where people can turn the app into essentially whatever they want. Well, that's the main thing. So the plan that I kind of came up with to do all this, to plan it out and whatnot, I'll show you guys here. So I created this folder called agent roles. And this agent role started out with just 4 files, which is these 4 files right here. The 4 pages, as I call it, or maybe not pages, but sections of development that I have to go through. So this HTML is what's generated from those markdown files. So you can see here, current checkpoints. I've already completed this, right? And these are the 4 sections: planning, prototype, build, management. So for the planning stage, I'm already done. I've already done this architect, technical architect, and architecture reviewer. And then the final review, decision synthesis, and then basically another review and handoff to the next section, which is a preview or prototype plan. Then it'll go through all this: prototype planner, the UI planner, the simulator provider, terminal planner, independent prototype judge, and then the prototype plan review, and then the same thing, hand off to the next agent. So this page, basically, if I scroll down here, see all these sections, if I load up my tool tab folder, it'll take all those markdown files and load them up. And then it'll basically tell me everything that has been done, everything that needs to be done in the project, all planned out from here. This is like a dashboard, basically. So, and you can see right here, I'm at agent 6 is complete, and starting page 2 prep. Page 2 is review and prototype. And there's some evidence that is still open here, which will get dealt with, and then later scope, defer. So stuff that I deferred to later. So everything is essentially marked down here. Oops. And yeah, so basically that is my planner. And this helps out so much because all the information is here. So when I tell my AI session, hey, can you make a prompt for this agent to become this role, for example, in my plan, and then when they do that in my plan, it'll tell them everything that agent needs to do, and then how to write the prompt for the next agent, because it's kind of a loop. One agent will do all the work, then write the prompt for the next agent to continue. Next agent will read that prompt, do the work, and then write the prompt for the next agent, right? So it's kind of like a loop there. So this is where this comes handy. So I can just tell them, hey, okay, I'm going to be working on this, whatever. Like, let's use that as an example. So planning is done. I finished this last night. This final handoff, agent 6 is done, which is technically agent 5. The only reason is because this agent 5 is agent 4. The 4 was basically another codex reviewer for this guy. Why you have 2 codex reviewers next to each other, I don't know. That must be just the AI that generated it. So I canceled that and whatever. So now we're going to start page 2, right? Now, page 2 is going to be a codex prototype planner. And these start prompts I'm not going to use because these are just how to make the prompt, like a guideline to make the prompt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into ChatGPT and I'm going to create a new thing here. And do this here and make sure that the folders are in. and I'll just say pause, don't respond, because I just don't want anything. I just want to be able to rename this session here. This is going to be page 2, prototype plan, agent 1, session 1. And just that's just a case if an agent takes more than one session. If the if the context gets too close to getting full, it'll use up the last bit of its context to update all the files where it's at and write up a prompt for another session to take over, so it has fresh context essentially. So now this one is set. I'll just do this to make it more compact. And that's agent. Okay, so I don't need this. I don't need that or that or that or that. I'll just keep this one here since that's the last agent. It did write a prompt, I believe. Did it write a prompt? Yes, it did. Okay. So let's go to the folder here. We'll find agent 6, page 2 prep prompt. There's no page 2 prompt. Page 2, here it is. Okay, page 2, agent 1, opening prompt. So you are agent 1, prototype planner for V2, why you exist. Page 1 is complete. Blah, 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 blah. Your task to find prototype. You must not reopen those. You must not make new product. Okay, your task to find prototype plan, review prototype plan. Doesn't tell it to read. Oh, here it is. Okay, read this file before making claim recommendations. Okay. Require durable outputs. Okay, it does talk about the prompt. There it is for the context. Okay, completion gate. Doesn't have approval on page 3, doesn't have page 2. Okay. All right. So that prompt looks good. I will copy it. We'll paste it into Buddy here. He's on Luna High, which is good. Start prompt is good, and prompt is good. Okay, so that can I can stay right there. Okay, so we'll send that off and it'll begin the plan. I think this is really useful, honestly. I don't think anyone's watching anymore. Is anyone watching? One person watching. Thank you. I do appreciate one viewer that's watching, because that means you're sticking around when nobody else is. Hopefully this is interesting. I mean, you can throw it into the chat if there's anything you want me to explain. Is there anything that you want to know about? I'm an open book. You know, I'm trying to show the process of vibe coding so people can see the real thing and not expect it to be like a money printing machine, because it's not. And it doesn't mean that you can basically code anything that you want. I really don't think that's true. There's still a lot of work that has to go into it. So that's basically what I'm trying to show, you know, just the exact process of what it takes to vibe code something, and just so people can get the real idea of what's going on, essentially, right? Yeah, I was actually really proud of this app when I made it, man. I really like it. I mean, I was glad I was able to do this with the skill level that I have, you know, because I was able to get it to do exactly what I wanted. It wasn't just about making something that's functional for others. Can I tell it something specific that I have in my mind, like an idea, and get it to, you know, make it a reality? That's basically what I was trying, and it worked. Some features are really impressive. Others were just so I can do it from my experience. Like this hard drive space thing. This is pretty simple. Just, you know, give some rules to notify when hard drive space is low. That's it. I'll complete the required pre-flight first. Verify the repository documentation only.
before making scope decision, hold them present a number of labs. So you product owner and wait for the review before draft substantial prototype decisions. If that is complete, the repository contains markdown reference images only. No source project dependency manifest exists. I also reviewed the confirmed page 1 summary and FD1 FDA handoff. The direct codex protocol evidence, the architecture evidence, later plugin security records, the competitive research, and all 4 UI references. I'm now recording this checkpoint and will present the required numbered analysis plan for proposing any prototype scope. Excellente. And I can predict it's almost done. Oh, well, how did I know that? Yeah, never mind. Okay. Proposed numbered plan. Define the smallest observable prototype promise and confirm the agent mode tab mode boundary. Define the smallest observable prototype. Okay. I think we've pretty much done that already, but it's probably just going over everything. Define agent mode scope and unsupported controls. Okay. Define tab mode terminal count, PTY behavior, and separation between launch, monitoring, routing. Define identity ownership, labels, capability status, identification, and privacy requirements. Define the simulator contract, deterministic scenarios for certain evidence grades. Define the real codex app server studio test matrix unavailable provider feedback. Define the first party plugin theme and UziFlow contract boundary. Okay, convert RD5's 11 guardrails into measurable requirements, then define milestones, exclusion, risk, dependency, acceptance, evidence, and chosen host design note. Review each promise decision with you in a quarter. Okay. Evidence groups, page 1 summary handoff. This time before I begin substantive prototype plan decisions. Yeah, plan looked good. The plan looks good. Let's begin going through everything one by one. So I really like this because then it creates a log of everything that it knows that I want to do. Like, for example, all my ideas files and everything, it looks at those and updates them, puts it in the right place, whether the idea is for architecture, whether it's for UI, this and that. And then when it comes time for planning it, it'll bring it up at the right time. So I think this is a really good way to go through development, because I basically had it go through other methods, how people were developing their apps and advice that other people gave. And I basically said, turn all of that into a plan, follow everything. A lot of stuff I didn't even understand, even though, I mean, only a few things like architecture choices. A lot of stuff I don't know, like when it's talking about, like Tori, for example. I don't know much about Tori. I don't know whether it'd be good for, future Mac OS compatibility planning or Linux planning, something like that. Because right now it's only on Windows, right? So those specific questions, I didn't know anything about it. But when the AI brings it up, it'll ask me, I'll say, hey, can you explain that? And it'll just give me a full explanation as to why it's deciding all these things. One thing I am going to do, and I think I'm probably going to do it soon, after the prototype planning is done, and I want to show it to a couple of devs and say, hey, listen, my AI is planning this. I got this so far. Is it on the right track? The decisions it's making, is it a right decision in in real world scenarios? So I'm going to have someone look at it just to make sure. But let's see here. Prototype must prove one observable result without becoming a full ID. Provider marketplace or universal session manager. Page 1 already approves. Agent tab mode. Create one tool tab project. Create one codex session. Submit one prompt. Show live confirm activity. Open one embedded terminal. Communicate. Show session and terminal identity without implying terminals monitor one controls. Render real or simulator. Alternatives. Agent mode only. Smaller but fails to prove they're approved to surface product direction. Full multi-AD, more visually impressive, but exceeds the first proof boundary and adds unsupported behavior. 2 mode thin vertical slight recommended. It improves core shape and pack. This gives page 2 a bounded prototype. Agent mode is a real provider proof. Tab mode is a real embedded terminal proof. Exactly. The terminal and status center provide deterministic coverage. Yes. Cross application targeting is not required to demonstrate the first result. No, it's not. I'm assuming cross application targeting. Maybe it's talking about finding sessions, but the only other cross application is my dictation app. But I think we're already going to redo everything in that app. I'm not sure. Anyway, use may interpret the share cell as implying monitoring or control of every terminal.
the shared shell, as implying monitoring or control of every terminal. Shared shell. Shared shell. Where is there going to be a shared shell between anyone? Even if there is, it should be between two people or maybe a team. Oh, I was probably talking about the idea I had to have teams, like team of devs having access to the same session. But see, that's the thing, that was just a small idea that I had, and now it's turning it into like a big feature. So I have to tell it, hey, listen, that was just a small idea, something like far in the future. Don't pay attention to that type of thing. So visible status center makes there's broader session discovery than the registry can prove. Yeah, I want to have a status center that shows all the information that the app is gathering, so it can be viewed there. So if a user thinks, hey, why isn't this information showing? They can check that status center. If it's not showing there, that means it's not getting the information. So we could do something like that. A single session may not demonstrate the long-term interruption reduction mission fully. A single session may not demonstrate the long-term interruption reduction mission fully. Long-term interruption reduction mission. What is a long-term interruption reduction mission? So I'll have to ask that. Unknowns is active visual treatment of unavailable agent mode controls. I already explained that. Just disable the button. Like when a button can't be pressed, it just has like a darker shade or something. Disabled. That's it. But the first demo should show the simulator beside the real session or in a separate test surface. No, I think the simulator will probably be like a terminal window, like a plugin that can open up and it'll act like a terminal and act like a session, but it's really not. So we may not need a simulator in the agent mode, although we can try that later on and we can implement that later. How much of the status center is required in the first runnable milestone versus later prototype milestones? So status center is something we can set up at the beginning. And just whenever we add features or add anything that does monitoring, we can just add it to that status center to make sure the data is coming through. So I think that's what we'll do. Approved. Page 1's two mode boundary, yes. Recommended. The prototype promise, yes. Deferred multi-session operation. Yeah, I mean, we don't need that right now till later on anyway. External session discovery, yeah, that can wait. Remote control, yeah, that can wait. Universal host support, yeah, and broad ID features, yeah. Unsupported. Any claim that the first tab mode terminal is monitored, controllable, or provider linked without evidence. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, alternatives. Okay, usually it looked like one of the mockups that I had given as an HTML file. However, most of the features will either be missing or the buttons will just be disabled, like when they're grayed out, or they have like a darker shade when the user cannot click on them. And then as we slowly build the prototype, those disabled buttons will get filled in and be enabled. And then after we get the initial prototype working in that state, it'll still be bare bones, but visually it'll look full with disabled buttons. But then at that point, we can begin modifying the UI according to what features we're realizing will work or not work. And then also the UI will give us a very simple guide to look at the app and say, well, we still need to implement this feature or that feature because the button is there for it. It's kind of like an easy reminder. Because a prototype UI visually doesn't really need to be like the final product because no user is going to be using it, just me. So I'd rather have visually the entire prototype look like what I want the final product to be. And then as we build out that initial prototype, we can modify the UI and then either build it up or down accordingly from there. Okay, and then two-tone work within recommended improves keeping provider and terminal claimed in your okay. Agent mode is the real provider proof. Yeah. Simulator and status provide deterministic coverage. The application target is not required to demonstrate the first result. Okay. We interpret the shared shell as implying monitoring of control of every terminal. Let's see here. Um, okay. Status center. Improve
Single session may not demonstrate the long-term interruption reduction mission fully. Okay, exact visual treatment of unavailable agent mode controls. Okay. Knowns. I think I answered this above already, but for the agent mode controls, we'll visually put all the controls there, but just disable each one or all of them until we actually implement the feature, and then we can enable the button. That way the visual prototype just shows what the app will look like, and then we can slowly build to it by making sure we build out all the buttons on the UI. But as we start building out the prototype, we can slowly start changing and updating the UI accordingly if we need to add buttons or take out buttons or things like that. So that'll all get done as we make the prototype. Okay. Whether the first demo should show the simulator beside the real session or in a separate test surface. Beside the real session. So when you say first demo, I'm assuming you mean the initial prototype. So the simulator will begin to be made once we get an actual session from Codex or Claude running in agent mode. But once we do, it should be able to sit beside a real session in the app. And yeah, basically like on the left, when you have like a project folder and then sessions inside of it, the project folder will be simulator. And then all the sessions in there will be simulated sessions. And then in tab mode, we'll have a simulator as a window that you can open. So instead of a terminal window, you open a simulator terminal window in tab mode. So that way agent mode will have a simulator as a session and tab mode will have it as a terminal. How much of the status center is required in the first runnable milestone? Okay. So I'm assuming when you say status center, you're talking about like a central place where all the information that our app detects about sessions, whether they're in tab mode or in the agent mode or in Windows terminals on the user's PC, will all come to the status center and display all the information there. And then the notification center can pull information from that. If I'm understanding correctly, is that what you're looking for? If it is, we can just have a status center made bare bones on the first prototype. And then as we add features in, like for example, a terminal window, we'll also implement a way for the status center to pick up information from that terminal window as we develop it. That way everything is developed for the status center as we develop the features that it's going to be detecting for. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, classification approved, page 1. Okay, yeah, recommended prototype promise above. Yep, deferred multi-session operation. Yes, external session discovery. Yes, remote control. Yes, universal host support. Yes, and broad ID features, of course. Unsupported. Any claim that the first tab mode terminal is monitored. Tab mode terminal is monitored, controllable, or provider linked without evidence. We'll talk to them about that. Okay, under classification. Okay, so when you say that any claim is unsupported, that the first tab mode terminal is monitored, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but when we
make our initial prototype and make our first tab terminal, once we get that terminal working, we should make sure that the status center or whatever should be able to detect the session that's in that terminal and detect whether that session is working, whether it's idle, whether it needs input. The same way I did it in ToolTab V1. It's not that hard to do it. And I don't believe there's going to be any security concerns with that either. But it should be pretty easy to develop once we have the tab mode terminal running. Okay. How much of the status center is required in the first? Where's the? Oh, that's I just answered, didn't I? Support. Oh no, it's right here. Okay. I was again this unknown unsupported. Okay. Unsupported. Yeah. Okay. Then exact milestone placement for the status center and simulator. Okay. So the status center, if I understood the definition correctly, what you're trying to say it will be, we probably will build it somewhat near the beginning, around the time we build the terminal window in tab mode. So it'll be pretty much right at the beginning. However, we'll add the ability for it to detect different things around the app as we develop those different things. So once we develop the terminal and get a session running, then we can immediately move on to getting the status center to detect all the session from there and all the information from there. And then when we get the agent mode session working, then we can immediately work on the status center detecting information from that session. So we'll have to make it at the beginning along with everything else initially, and then we'll slowly build on it. However, just make sure that if I understood the status center incorrectly, then tell me so I can redefine all this for you. Okay, please let's see, approve or correct this prototype promise and through. Okay, so with all that, so did I miss anything? Any other information that you need? Everything else looks good. Just the things that I mentioned are the things that I either need more clarification or I did supply more information, but let me know if there's anything else you need, and anything that I asked for clarification on, please let me know before moving on. And yeah, let me know if what other information you need, what I got wrong, what I got right. And this part usually does take a while, which kind of sucks. I like to keep my mind in the zone, so to speak, but now I have to sit and wait for it. So I tend to do a lot of these, well, you can't see it, I guess, but these Rubik's Cubes. Let me see here. So this is like a 4 Rubik's Cube. This is a weird one. You can see how there's that and then that. This is called the Puppet Cube. Anybody who knows much about Rubik's Cubes might know about this. This is a very hard Rubik's Cube to complete. Never recommend it for beginners. Okay, that was pretty quick. Your classification helpful. Shared shell. I meant the application shell, the sidebar, mode switcher, panels. Did I mean? Oh. Okay. So if you meant share, okay. So if you meant it in that sense, let me go back to it. Shared shell. Interpret shared shell as implying monitoring or control of every terminal. Shared shell. Mode switcher, panels, status area, and window layout.
Yep, exactly. State remains visible when evidence in status center must not invent a state. Well, of course. I don't want status center to lie. What are we doing here? Anyway, monitoring versus control. You first have to terminal can be monitored once we implement the new status center will detect what it is and look at oops. Whoa, is that the last prompt that I sent? So did I miss anything? Yeah, so oh my god, I didn't even send the last one. So did the yeah, see, and this part doesn't go out, yeah. So it didn't did send that part right there, which I think is fine. Okay. Still need to, so when it's talking about the shared shell, users may interpret the shared shell as implying monitoring or control of every terminal. They may interpret it as implying monitoring and control of every terminal. Yes, it does need to monitor and control every terminal. There's no implication of that. I don't understand. I'll talk to him about that later. Anyway, full visual shell. Yes, already read that. Okay. Later, observe Windows terminals or other hosts when evidence supports them. Yes. Notification center is secondary presentation important status changes. The status center will be online. Yes. Trigger. Yes. Monitoring works control. Monitoring. Yes. 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 Okay. Simulator placement. External terminal observation. Okay. Um, okay. That's it. Over the simulator. The initial prototype can just focus on the terminal CLI simulator. That is the purpose of the simulator is to test the notification center. And etc. And plugin development testing. However,
the agent mode should not be a priority to have a simulator mode, because most of what we need the simulator for can be done with the terminal already, or will be able to be done by the terminal once we get that working. However, for agent mode, there's not going to be much difference between that one. The only difference will be that we can use the simulator to test if sessions from the provider can still be detected, which is kind of a small test case scenario for an entire simulator. So we can just focus on making the terminal simulator first for the initial prototype, and then we can defer the agent simulator until later on down the line. I don't want to focus on too much of the simulator. I suggest that, and the AI really wants to build. It's like it wants an AI in my AI. Come on, man. Okay. I want to make sure that it knows that these mockups are here. Okay. Let's see what it says. Okay. Let's just take a quick look here. So it looks like it's saying that I have 0 watchers. Now that I click on it, it says 1 watcher. That might be me though, so I clicked on the video. But if anyone is here, please throw a message in the chat, because if I have zero watchers, I think I'm just gonna call it a day. But I do appreciate anyone who did stop by. I know my streams are probably not that entertaining. I'm just trying to, just give people a shot to see what vibe coding is really like. I see a lot of people wasting their time getting upset that it's not what they thought it was. Let me just give you an idea. But in the end, guys, just give it a shot. You won't know if you can do it unless you try. That's one thing that I learned. And it's not that hard, guys. It's not that hard. It does require some skills or some knowledge, but it's nothing that you can learn along the way. Nothing that you can't learn along the way. Like, you can always look something up, talk to your buddies, see if they can help you. Like, there's a lot of ways you can get this done. Vibe coding just makes it a lot easier. So even if you couldn't do it before, you might be able to do it now. Just give it a try. That's all I have to say. Once again, thank you guys for stopping by. Like and subscribe. Hopefully I can see you guys again in the stream later on. Thank you so much for watching, and peace. Stay safe out there, guys.